Okay. So today's session I will be talking about interactive teaching strategies for achieving outcome-based education. Now, when we talk about outcome-based education, the first thing is that outcome-based education talks about student-centered approaches, and it focuses what the learners can do after learning in the class. Secondly, learning outcomes are specific, measurable, and relevant. Third thing is achieving smart outcomes. And the fourth important thing is aligning with the global trends, real world application. This is how this can be brought to the class, and this can be achieved only when the student and the teacher know what exactly they are teaching and what exactly the students are learning. Therefore, outcome-based education, when we talk about, it is like it first thing is it gives the planning as to how the class and other activities are to be done. Secondly, it focuses on learners' behavior that has to be changed. Third thing is it gives the guidelines for the content, instruction, and evaluation. The fourth thing is it identifies specifically what should be learned. And lastly, convey to the learners what exactly has been accomplished. This is what the outcome based education talks about. So, when we go deep into it, we can find that it is based on the taxonomy given by Bloom's, and there are three domains which specifically are focused on cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. So I was talking about the taxonomy where we have cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domain. Actually, the Bloom's taxonomy is talking about the cognitive domain. Now, when we say it is a taxonomy where we have to take the students from knowledge till evaluation or creation. The new taxonomy talks about creation as well. So there are some changes in new taxonomy where it talks about the creation as well. So from knowledge to creation, we have to take the students, and there the student should know what exactly he has to do further in the class. So same way, every time it is not only the cognitive domain that we have to achieve, but we have to also look at the affective side of the students, which is very, very important in today's classes nowadays. And the last is psychomotor. They should be using their skills, which is very important in as per NEP and as per the RUSA also. RUSA has introduced about the skill education. Now NEP is also talking very bluntly about the skill education. So, focusing on the skills, the psychomotor domain, focusing on that, we have to take care of all these domains when the teacher is in the class. So, outcome-based education is not only about teaching and learning; it is much more than that. Therefore, a teacher has to take care of the principles, some principles which are smart. Smart is he has to be very specific. The outcomes have to be measurable. They have to be achievable. It has to be relevant, and it has to be time bound. So when we talk about all these things, we are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. At that time, it is the role of a teacher to take care of all these things. Their mission of the university or of the institute. It is aligned with the educational outcomes. Educational outcomes are aligned with the learning outcomes, and learning outcomes are aligned with the course outcomes. You can go the both the way, reverse way also. Like first is class, the CLOs, that is course outcome can be framed. We have PLOs, the program outcomes can be framed. The PEOs, program educational outcomes, which helps in achieving the mission of the organization. So when first thing that the outcome based education is based on is the planning of all these outcomes. Secondly, it talks about secondly it the important task. So when we say planning, everything, your curriculum, your pedagogy, everything comes in planning. Second is about teaching and learning processes. When we talk about teaching and learning processes, it is course syllabus, it is pedagogy, it is learning process, and the assessment during the classrooms or after the classroom. The next part, that is assessment. There are two types of assessment which we generally see. One is the formative assessment and the second is summative assessment. So some formative and summative assessment which helps the outcome based education or which helps the education structure for improvement. So here what the students have achieved is helping for planning again. So this is a complete act or complete process. First plan, then do, then check, and then act. So outcome based education is based on all these things: planning, the teaching learning process, the assessment, and the improvement. So today I will be mainly focusing on teaching learning process and the assessment, which is the crucial part in the classroom. Therefore, the role of interactive teaching in outcome based education is: one, it enhances student engagement and retention. Secondly, it facilitates student centered learning. And third thing is, it develops critical thinking, collaboration, and problem solving skills in the students. In today's era, when we talk about the teaching and learning, if we want that really the learning has to take place, the first thing is give time for students to imagine, provide proper information, and take initiation. If all these three things are there, then there would be a proper learning in the class. There would be proper learning in the class. So first, imagination point from the point of view of students as well as teachers, which comes into the planning. Secondly is providing information, because the teacher today is not only the source of information. There are many things from where the students learn. So information, getting information from different sources and finding out the authenticity of that information is very important. So it is for both the students and the teachers. And then initiation. It is not only the routine work which the teacher has to do. She has to initiate to see that the students are really learning. Therefore, any learning can happen when three things are qualified. One is engagement, the intellectual, social, and emotional engagement of the students as well as the teachers, which is very important. Second is enjoyment. Why I call enjoyment? Because unless students enjoy, they won't learn. That is why enjoyment is very important. Unless teachers enjoy to teach, they will not be able to teach properly. So teacher enjoyment is very important. And third thing is involvement, where the students are involved in learning and the teachers are involved in teaching. So that involvement is also very, very important when we talk about a classroom. When these three things are qualified, the learning actually takes place or the learning actually happens. Therefore, now the role of a teacher is creating learning opportunities plus connection. The teacher has to get connected with the students. When the teacher is getting connected with the students, then only the change can take place. And when we talk about outcome based education, we say that the outcome should be measurable and observable. So when the observable outcome is there, when we could see the change in the students, then only we can say it is observable. So our motive, our goal, our objective is to bring change in the students. That is why the three C's are very important. One is creating learning opportunities to the students, relevant, very efficient learning opportunities to the students. Second is connecting them. And the third thing is bringing a change. That only will bring a change in the students. So these three C's are very, very important with today's generation. Nowadays, what we see is the teachers do the routine work. They are not they don't get connected with the students. That is why what happens is, though mentoring is there in many of the colleges, but they don't do the mentoring generously. It is just a process which they follow, and the mentoring is not done. If the teacher gets connected with the students, if the teacher really wants the student to learn, first they have to get connected with the students. And then only the objective, the change can be seen. So, for teaching and learning, for pedagogy, I would like to suggest the TPAC model. The TPAC model is technology, pedagogy, and the knowledge, content knowledge, and the knowledge that is shared by the teachers. So, if you could see the model, you can see that technology, which is TK, where you have to use it, then is content, and then the pedagogical knowledge. So it all everything is interrelated. There was a research done on these things, and we have found out that there were many students who were happy with this type of learning in the class, where the technology, the knowledge, the content was the teacher was very much she used the content appropriately and properly in the class, and it was connected with different pedagogical approaches. So this model was very much useful for the teachers in the class, where we have conducted a small research. Therefore, what we want today, we want an active learning class. This is the learning pyramid which I would like to share. So in this learning pyramid, if you see, there are two things. One is passive learning and one is participatory or active learning. So in passive learning, if you see, if you keep on lecturing that only 5% of the students are could gain what that would be a one-way method which will be taught to the students. Second is reading. That also will give only 10% of the retention. Students will not at all be, they will not at all be attentive if only the reading is there in the class. So many times it has been observed that what the teachers do, they use PPT, but then that PPT is only read out. There is no more explanation. There is no more two-way conversation, which really affects the learning of the students. Next is audio visual aid. Yes, you are using PPT. Yes, you are using video, but how are you using it? That is very, very important. So when you use PPT, how is your explanation? How is the PPT made? Whether you are reading it out or whether you are explaining it, whether it is a picturesque or it is just a theoretical PPT that you have prepared. How is it? That matters a lot. If you are using a video, go on with the same. That is like just YouTube videos are playing in the class. Does that happen? What exactly happens? How exactly you use it? It is very, very important. Is there any type of discussion with the students? Is there any type of two-way learning from the students as well as the teachers? Is there anything? That is very important. Then we have demonstration where the students learn, 30% of the students learn through demonstration. Then we have discussion. If we have discussion, proper discussion in the class, you can see that 50% reading, 50% of the students are participating. They love having discussions. They love having their giving their opinions. They love giving leadership and giving them the chance to speak about something. So 50% of the students get involved into it. And practice by doing. When we go by experiential learning, when we give the students practice, to do something, we allow them to do something, that time it is 75%. And last, if peer group learning, what we call it as. When there is peer group learning, the students, 90% of the students participate and learn something. So this is how the participation pyramid is there. Now, as a teacher, we have to decide whether our class should be an active class or is it going to be a passive class. And accordingly, you have to design, you have to plan, you have to develop the pedagogical activities in your class. So when we talk about the student-centered learning, the student-centered learning mainly speaks about keeping the students in the center and then conducting the activities. Till date, we were most of the times, the learning was teacher-centered, where teacher used to be in the center and then the learning used to take place. Now the trend has changed. Now we have to go with the student-centered learning. It cannot be only one-way learning. Therefore, we have to begin with virtual platforms. We have to begin inquiry-based projects. We have to begin with technology integration. We have to begin with global connections, game-based learning, peer-to-peer coaching, direct instructions, and focus on mastery. So they have to learn all these things with different types of modes in the class. So when we talk about the innovative teaching approaches, I shall share some innovative or teaching strategies. That is personalized learning, gamification, which is very important. Or the teacher can have the gamification offline as well as online. Both the modes, the gamification can be there. Then active learning, inquiry-based learning, peer-assisted learning, problem-based learning, mnemonics, team-based learning, computer-assisted learning, flipped classroom, which is it is a very good method where the students can explore themselves. Small group discussions, these are some of the strategies which a teacher can use in the class with a different methods, with a different way of learning. So when we are talking about the interactive teaching strategies, I will focus on both the type of teaching. One is the ICT based, or you can say as the technology based learning. When we talk about technology based learning, the in-house learning or the learning that is done in the class, that is also very important, where we can have collaborative methods of learning. For example, jigsaw. For example, we can have think and pair. For example, we can have bus classroom. For example, we can have the fish pond method. Many other techniques can be used in interactive teaching strategies in the class as well as with the help of technology. So this interactive teaching will help in sustainable learning for the students. The students will retain the knowledge. The knowledge will not only be only to present on the paper or omit it on the paper, but it will remain with them forever. That is what we wanted. So this type of learning, if the teacher goes with the student-centered learning and with the different activities in the class, obviously the students are going to learn something. We will come on to the assessment part now. Now we generally have two types of assessment, summative and formative. Now, summative assessment we have at the end of the semester. We have an exam which we call it as summative assessment. But formative assessment for outcome-based achievement, the formative assessment is very important. So if we see the cycle of formative assessment, you can see the goals and objectives, curriculum, science capabilities, key competences, that has to be planned first. Secondly, the teaching learning. You have to plan with the help of formative assessment only, how the teaching learning program can be there. And the next is that working, whether that teaching learning which I'm teaching and what the students are gaining, is that working in the class? Where are the gaps in the understanding of the students, in the capabilities of the students? You can identify with the help of formative assessment. And lastly, what is the next step where the students can learn? So this is very important for the students. The formative assessment system and the summative assessment system is very important to see whether your outcomes are achieved or not. So when we try to analyze the achieved outcomes, it is first the formative assessment, which we conduct in the class. The teacher has to give the marks to the students on based on their formative assessment. So when we talk about formative assessment, there can be group discussion, how the students do, how they participate in the class. You can have simulations. There can be reflexive simulations as well. There can be rapid questioning. There can be think, pair, and share, collaborative methods, and also there can be some debates, some quizzes, and so on during the class itself. So that will give and that will motivate the students to perform better. And nowadays, we also can go on with the formative. We can also go on with the help of technology. We can also have the assessment done in the class after your each lecture. After your each lecture. So you can use quizzes, you can use Kahoot, you can use Padlet, Mentimeter, Slido, and many more. This can be used in the class to know what exactly, how exactly students are learning in the class. This is a polling. This by with the help of this, you can have polling. With the help of this, you can have short answers you can get from the students. You can have word the cloud from the students. One word can be taken up. So with this, you can come to know what students exactly have learned. So assessment can be easily possible. Even in your Google Classroom, there are short assignments given. Google Classroom, you can give students short assignments and can analyze them or can assess them there itself. So Google Classroom is also very helpful for the students for assessment and other techniques. So when we talk about OBE and achieving OBE, when we talk about how we can go towards the teaching strategies for achievement of OBE, at that time there are, when I have already spoken about the teaching strategies that we can use. I have already spoken about the assessment techniques that we can use. I have told you about how important it is for planning of OBE, how important it is. So these three are the pillars to achieve OBE in the classrooms or in an organization. Therefore, the challenges which I could see nowadays is first is time management, balancing interactive activities with curriculum. This can be, it is the challenge for the teachers. The teachers, to complete their syllabus, they have to run. And therefore, they say that we don't have time to balance this interactive activities. We don't have time. But what I feel, if you really want to make your class interactive, in between 10 to 15 minutes of lecture, in between you can have 2-3 minutes of small activity and then move further, which will help you to know whether the teachers whether the students are attentive in the class or not. So that will bring the students, if they are no mentally moving somewhere, they are not in the class mentally, you can bring them back to the class with this short activities. So such activities the teacher has to plan, the teacher has to take care of. Therefore, the first thing the teachers talk about is time management. The second is assessment design. So designing the assessment based on outcome, that it is very difficult for the teachers, and they feel that when we ask them to prepare a question paper, aligning it with the Bloom's taxonomy, aligning it with the course outcome, and aligning it with the program outcome, it becomes very difficult for the teachers to do that. So they feel that it is a big challenge for us. And the third is teachers' readiness. Our teachers really trained? Our teachers really know the interactive approaches? They have to. Nowadays there are many platforms through which they can learn about this interactive teaching. So the teacher's readiness is very important. If you have to be a good teacher, if you really feel that the students need to listen to you, you should get connected with the students. If you feel that I want to be I want to be in this, I'm in this noble profession of teaching, and I want to really teach my students, then the readiness to change. The teacher should have that readiness to change. And with the coming trends, the teacher has to change themselves. You cannot go with the traditional techniques. You need to change yourself. The best practices for implementing interactive strategies: align strategies with learning outcomes, incorporate diverse methods for different learning styles, provide continuous and constructive feedback. This is very, very important. And the acceptance of feedback from the teachers. If the students are not able to understand, the teachers need to change their methodology. That acceptance should be there from the teachers, that yes, if the students are not able to understand, I need to change my method. So what should I do for it? That is very important. To also, which new methods, new techniques should I use? How can I make the concept simpler for the students? That is how the teacher has to think about. Provide continuous and constructive feedback, evaluate and adapt strategies based on students' performance. So, based on students' performance, also the teacher has to change her interactive strategies. Therefore, I just wanted to say today that interactive teaching is crucial for achieving outcome based education goals. It encourages students for critical thinking, engagement, and real world application. Therefore, flexibility and innovation are the key to successful implementation. This is what I wanted to share today. I feel this should reach to the teachers, where now still today the teachers, if you see the new generation, the teachers, that they are not able to understand, they are not able to take up the new methods, new techniques, specifically in the domains where there is no training given to the teachers, where their technical concept is very good, but they don't have the training, they don't know how to teach the students. That is there somewhere they are lacking, and there somewhere the acceptance of the teacher in new generation, they do not accept it also. So that is where I feel we are still behind, and as teachers nowadays need to train on all these aspects. Therefore, then only we can achieve this outcome based education. Then only it can be a really sustainable education. Then only it can be the students, lifelong learners they can be. Whatever the teachers teach, that can remain forever with them. Thank you so much.